Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to EUWChallenger Series number 12, with the second best of three we have today with H2k and CC, or Croissant Crusaders. I will not be saying that for the rest of the cast because I will inevitably screw up, but I am Pulse and I am joined by Spuddington. How's it going?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a little bit of a while since we were last casting this, but I do have a bit of a housekeeping announcement to make vis-a-vis the drama from earlier on. Okay, so you may have seen earlier on Reason Gaming versus Asian Maids Are Sweet. Okay, right. Asian Maids Are Sweet had a perma forever banned player in their roster, and they kind of stomped Reason, right? Thing is, they did have this player who is not allowed to do anything ever again to do with League, so they kind of got disqualified for that. But Reason Gaming then were real gents about it and said, well, okay, if you can just get rid of that one player, we're okay for you to have that slot. But then they actually, Asian Maids Are Sweet, then just said, actually no, we'll come back next week, don't worry about it. So Reason Gaming will be moving on to the next round. That is the important point here. I hope I haven't confused anyone, but Reason Gaming moving on, Asian Maids Are Sweet dropping out for this particular game, even though they won. So, this game, KMT.H2k, being the abbreviation of the full name, versus Croissant Crusaders, as you say.
Bit of a mind screw, and I can see from the chat that people have just kind of been just what?
Reason Gaming won. Effectively. That's all you need to know.
Bottom line, Reason Gaming has won. That's all you need to think about it. You don't need to think of anything else. But we're going to move on from that because that's impacting on this glorious game we're about to have, Spuddington. So we should probably quickly go through the ban champions. I want to touch quickly on the Fizz ban and maybe the Kassadin, but apart from that, there's nothing really out of the ordinary. Fizz is an interesting ban. Fizz has seen a lot more play recently. He's a very skill-dependent champion in the sense that Lee Sin is also a very skill-dependent champion. You have to be really good at him to play him at the top level and make him work, and Broken Shard has indeed picked him out. Sometimes we see him top lane, sometimes we see him in jungle. Fizz, I feel, is the same sort of character. He can snowball really, really hard. And I'm looking at their lineup. I'm not familiar with all of the players, especially in this roster. So, who would be playing that Fizz?
Okay, so gotta be honest, I'm not entirely certain who their mid player is either because I have failed to do the research today. They've had some roster changes and all the rest, so I don't know, but it's a pretty decent guess to say it would be Spontex. He's been known for his mid champions, and I've seen him top lane as well, but he's a solo lane player. He plays those slippery champions. I know he's famous for his Evelyn, although he has actually banned it out on this occasion. Possibly to prevent it being picked away from. So I'd expect him to be playing that Fizz if anyone was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, Fizz has been banned out. Let's take a look at the current lineup from H2k. Looking for the Caitlyn and the Thresh pickup, so a very poke-centric lane already with decent engage. And then Dota God picking out the Zac as well for, in fact, more engaged. So far they have a really good peel composition for Caitlyn, so when they transition into the late game, they could look really, really strong. The early game as well will also look strong, and their entire team looks like a parabolic power curve. We'll see what they do to flesh out the lineup. It would be very interesting to see if they really go hard for that early game, and then kind of a weaker mid game and then stronger late game, because it's not something we really see teams completely kind of form a composition around.
Yeah, and I would like to just ring the Zyra Ashe alarm bell. It does seem to be becoming one of the most commonly seen bottom lane setups, and I think that's partly because it actually does quite well against Caitlyn Thresh, which is extremely strong as well. In a straight-up 2v2, it's one of the few lanes which has the range and the ability to punish Caitlyn if she tries to attack using her range, to kind of just deal with it and farm it out, assuming they don't get ganked into oblivion. But having that Lee Sin available does make it quite dangerous to be really anywhere on the map. And I would just say, J4 was open, but nobody went for it.
Yeah, now seeing the Carthus pick up alongside Yorick. And again, Yorick has seen some more play recently. Yeah, hello. This is a very interesting composition. I'll touch on the rest of the picks from CC before we move over to that. So Kha'Zix and Lissandra picked up. Kha'Zix, in fact, they are interchangeable. Could see the Kha'Zix mid or even top. A lot of laners, or at least solo laners on Kha'Zix, like to max the Void Spikes for the wave clear, going to group the minions together and then clear them out very quickly, because you don't tend to put an evolution point in W almost at all now. Generally, players put the points in either Q or E first, normally Q, then go for the E, and then finish off with the ultimate. So the W really just has its utility in the early game, or at least the laning phase.
Okay, so let's look at the kind of overall comps here. To me, this is looking like a classic team fight composition from KMT.H2k. I will probably just call them KMT from now on, and it's going to really confuse me because they're also the X and Nexus lineup. But they are running a really strong team fight composition. They've got the Carthers to just kind of zombie in, go in, die, split the entire team up, or force them to sit in defile, doing a ton of damage in an AoE. They've got the Yorick to make sure he doesn't die as fast if necessary, and just give him that extra go at it, putting out that damage. Also means you can get 2 Caitlyn's, means you can't focus down Caitlyn as easily. They've got the Thresh just for general utility and lane support, and they've got that Zac for an initiate. So really, really strong team fight composition on the other side. But on their opponent's side, on the side of Croissant Crusaders, that looks like the classic picking comp. I mean, you can see it, can't you, Pulse?
Yeah, and I'm looking at now you've said it. You said X and Nexus, and now I'm going to keep calling them X and Nexus, but it's I also want to call them H2k. In fact, in the lobby, they've called themselves H2k versus CC, so for now, at least I'll call them H2k. But yeah, I'm looking at the double zombie lineup for Carthus, and that could be very interesting in team fights. They'll almost never be able to focus Carthus down, which is something you generally like to do with a picking composition, as you mentioned, Spullington, with CC, so they can get the pick onto Carthus, then go for the engagement, and kind of draw the engagement away from Death Defiled. However, with Yorick, that'll put a curveball, because not only do they have to focus them out once, but they have to focus them out twice, and make sure when he dies the second time, his Death Defiled isn't in a position where it again splits their team.
Yeah, but regardless, we will be going into a quick commercial break while we wait for the delay timer to tick down. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in just a second. We have got a few more words to say about the comps when we get into game, but we'll see you after this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is H2k or KMT.H2k or something like that versus CC Croissant Crusaders. I am Spuddington and I am going to be joined today by Pulse.
Hey, how's it going? And yeah, we haven't seen too much of these teams. Well, I say that, but we've seen a lot of the X and XS lineup, which is now H2k. And then Dota Girl, I think, was originally called LOL's Dead at the time. So apart from the name change, they're very similar, and we've seen them to great effect so far in the Challenger series, but now under a different name. On the flip side, we have Croissant Crusaders, or CT, which we'll probably be calling them, who are kind of like a mismatch, a ragtag of players, and we just saw the Grassing Roots come across, overpower Great Duke out of the way, and they should repel this invasion. So nothing's really going to happen in early game with that invade being stymied, but I could definitely see them doing well. The problem, of course, when putting solo queue players together is they might not necessarily have that team synergy as someone like the X and XS lineup of H2k would have otherwise.
Yeah, we have seen several of these players on the same team before. I believe Six, Prathana and Odoamne have been on a couple of teams together in the past. Always touch wood when you say things like this, because the challenger scene team rosters change at lightning speed. But I'm fairly sure those guys have been together in the past. Broken Shard we've seen in a number of places, and Spontex has also done, that kind of thing. Subbed for Gambit, as everyone knows.
Yeah, Croissant Crusaders are kind of like the pick and mix of the Challenger series at the moment here, Spuddington. So, I kind of wanted to make a sweet joke, but maybe
have
too
like
soon.
a squishy pink one.
Oh, I don't know. Are we going to start comparing them to different sweet items? Because, well, that could go very bad very quickly. But so in the mid lane, we have Karthus versus Kha'Zix. Not a matchup I've really seen that much. I would probably give the early game to Kha'Zix, and he's actually, for some reason that just struck me as really funny. First blood goes down to Spontex, and just as I was saying, I would give the early game to Kha'Zix. He picks up the first blood.
I was wondering, are you going to say Karthus or are you going to say Kha'Zix there? Because you sounded almost like you changed your mind because he jumped at it.
Yeah. No, I assure you, it was always going to be Kha'Zix.
Always. Never anything else. Never at all. But anyway, we have got Yorick in this top lane. We haven't seen him a lot lately. But I can't imagine Lysandra is going to have a fun time against this. Does look like Broken Shard is going to try and alleviate some of that pressure, but do you feel like there's any answer in Lysandra's kit for Yorick?
Not really, and honestly, who does, apart from Cho'Gath, who was never really used in this meta anymore? Yorick is just very difficult to answer with. I believe he's, well, at least in the 1 second.
He's going so close to that brush.
Yeah,
there.
I just wanted to hold off for a second because Broken Shard, so many times Zax has just moved himself towards the brush and has just opened himself up to the opportunity of being locked down. Circle Frost comes out, Broken Shard follows up, Flash comes out by Zax's, goes into the turret, takes a tower shot for his troubles, but backs on up.
Yeah, so good flash burn. That's going to mean Yorick can't get as aggressive. Worth noting as well, I don't think he went with he did go with a ward start. Broken Shard just bypassed it, but it's going to mean he's got to be careful, so he won't want to push out his lane as hard, and by extension of that, he won't want to get as aggressive. But bot lane now, aggression coming in from Zac.
Yeah, Dota immediately jumps in with Elastic Slingshot, juking forward. Flash comes out from Six, not a flash from Caliber, shoots the wrong target, picks up the kill and return anyway. Flash comes down from Dota, God doesn't even pop into the Bloblet, and comes out swinging with double buff and didn't even drop into his passive.
Yeah, very narrow, but he would have been perfectly okay with dropping into that passive form. It's just kind of an added bonus. I'd like to mention, though, Overpower right now taking the Wraiths away. At this early of a stage, I know he is Karthus, who is the king of taking away Wraiths, but seems to me like that might hurt his mana sustain.
Yeah, possibly, and it's interesting. It's an interesting pickup. I would also like to just touch briefly on when we were talking about Zac. The fact that he wasn't popped into his passive and actually went down to 16 HP, that's kind of a big deal. It's the same sort of principle as Aatrox, where if you don't use that Bloodwell passive, the ability to come back after you've been downed, you can still be more aggressive as a jungler, and that's a massive tool for ganking. Because as a jungler, you have to weigh up whether you can die or your lane will die when you go for that gank, but having that ability to essentially have the extra through Guardian Angel in the early game is so strong. Last 16 comes out into Spontex, but he really can't trade against him right now. Neither can Carthus, who was pushed out of lane, chunks him down to about 25% HP. And Spontex looking unstoppable, even at 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah, Lee Sin in the top lane, so keep an eye on that and cut me off if it happens. But Kha'Zix is one of those characters, though, that finds it actually quite difficult to capitalize on being able to force someone out of the lane, because since the nerf to his W evolved form, he doesn't have such wave cleared Broken Shard in the top lane, though.
Yeah, Broken Shard following through with a safeguard straight into Tempest, lands the Q, looking to maybe donate this kill to his top lane of Lissandra, and indeed does so. Picking up the early kill into Yorick is so invaluable.
Yeah, it's huge. Yorick is one of those characters who is just incredibly binary. Either you can tank his ghouls and deal enough damage in return to stop him just crushing you and grinding you out of lane, or you can't. And if you can't, it becomes a miserable experience laning against him. You have to tower hug, you have to try and rely on brush jukes, but it doesn't work very reliably if he's skilled with his W. It's just all around a horrible situation to be in. But if you can get ahead of Yorick, the same thing kind of applies in reverse. If his ghouls aren't doing enough damage to you, you just kind of win, and you know there's not a lot he can do to outplay you.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to describe how that matchup is, because it's almost like, because there aren't many tools in Yorick's kit to outplay someone, it's literally just you use your abilities and see if you win. But it's kind of hard to describe that. Broken Shard looking for a jungle invasion and potentially moving down to the bot lane. Ward comes out as well. And he will be looping around, finding himself Dota God. Q follows up, kind of just push him around his own jungle and just enforce the fact that he is Lee Sin. And put down that early dominance. Waiting in the brush as well, he's well aware that he did start with the red buff. So he's looking to potentially counter jungle this. There will be some reaction from Dota God's team, with Fresh coming up. Doesn't look like they want to go all in. Ward comes out, and it will be the battle of the Smite with an extra level 1 Broken Shard. He should be able to get this. Smite comes out, picks up the kill. There's a reversal coming in from the backside. Long Profana and his support of 6 jumps over the wall. Kill picked up by Spontex. Overpower and Dota God backing off. Great jungle invasion so far. Flash comes out, insects it back into the team. Now into the Blobless passive. They should be able to clear this up with ease.
Yeah, very nicely played. And that was just a play that was predicated both on the fact that Lee Sin is an incredibly strong jungle duelist, Zac was already low, and the fact that his team was already pushing up their lanes and were ahead. Kha'Zix, his mere presence and the fact that Carthus couldn't see him meant that he was kind of almost zoned out. He didn't dare join that fight until Spontex was already committed. And that kind of meant he didn't really put out a lot of damage, and he was already low on mana. So, really nice play. That picks them up the dragon off the back of the kills they got. This is looking pretty good right now for the Croissant team.
Yeah, so we spoke briefly about how they have a very strong pick potential composition. So when you talk about composition, you're generally looking at them towards the mid game. It's like, okay, so how does this team weigh up against this team in the sense that they can roam around them or they can go for team fight? And we've mentioned how H2k have such a strong team fighting composition, especially with Overpower and Zaxxas to keep him in the game even long after he should have died. So with the picking potential, even in the early game, it's shining through. The aggression from Broken Shard and then the follow-up from the rest of his team looking incredibly strong. Almost stopping H2k even getting to the stage where he can get into those team fights.
It's kind of a momentum thing. The team here from, from not X and X's, they are going by the name of KMT.H2k. H2k, yeah, so the problem with their team comp, it is incredibly strong if all 5 of them are in a team fight. They work incredibly well together. They synergize so well. You know, you get the Yorick with the Carthus, you get the Carthus splitting everyone up, and they don't want to focus him even more than usual because of the zombie effect. But the problem is it doesn't work quite as well when it's broken apart. If you only have Carthus and Yorick, you can just focus down Carthus and then leave. It won't really matter to them regardless. And they have an incredibly strong team for focusing people down. Like, just picking off one guy. You've got the Lissandra's ability to just jump in with the claw, ult with the frozen tomb, and indeed, Broken Shard is coming in on the top lane.
Yeah, safeguards, and I don't even have time to say it before he's popped into his ultimate form, trying his best just to get some minion CS. That's his only real objective.
Emergency farming.
Indeed, it is literally the definition of emergency farming. You have died and get as much as you can do. I believe it was Dyrus in an LCS match who, when he knew he was dead as Carthus, went straight into the top lane and just barreled straight for the enemy tower just so he could farm the next wave of minions.
Well, it's always worth it, and you know, a wave of minions is a pretty significant bit of gold. And we are seeing a bit of a tussle going on over rates here. Spontex will get that away with the Q, and indeed continued pressure in the bot lane. But yeah, going back to that team composition talk, if they can keep them on the back foot, if they can always make sure there's something going on which is forcing H2k to split up, then Croissant Crusaders essentially have this game because their team functions so well if they're roaming around and just being the ones initiating small fights in their favor.
Yeah, their skirmishing potential and their mobility is so much stronger, and we've mentioned that H2k have such a strong team fight, but their methods of getting into the team fight and then locking them in the team fight are quite small. They may be able to keep them there for like 1 or 2 seconds with limits reversal, but he's one of their main tools for locking them up, because apart from that, they're really lacking on CC, because Dota God can go in with Elastic Slingshot, gonna hold that for a second with Broken Child moving into the top lane, and Warjump comes out, knocks him into the wall, but Lissandra not able to catch up in time. However, Kha'Zix from the side may look to finish the deal. He is chasing after, flash into Void Assault, and the leap comes out, still trading off with Zaxxas, but he's definitely won this trade, and Takes Their Fear finishes off the kill.
Yeah, brutal. And now he's up to 3-0. However, mid tower being pushed down pretty hard as a result. That was quite a heavy commitment of manpower and time to that top lane. So if they can get this tower done and dusted, then H2k might not be too upset about losing one man. This is the weakness of Yorick in lane. If there is any weakness, it is that he lacks an escape other than to just kind of try and turn around and kill your 2v1. He's not Nasus though. Dota God in the mid.
Yeah, and unable to get anything done against Spontex with the re-engagement arrow from across the map. Rocket Child now moving in, doesn't have the ultimate from the last engagement. Now popping straight into his defile. Spontex should surely drop. He's still alive and kicking, picks up the kill with Elastic Slingshot, and ultimate comes out. Doesn't pick anyone up, and it was more of a rage ultimate, but maybe Dota God can pick up this kill. Still trading off with Lee Sin, who is an exceptional duelist, but so is Zac at low HP. Either way, no kills come out, but 1 for 1.
Yeah, Dota God and Broken Shard are still going at it, though. Neither of them really quite has the damage, and Dota God has no passive. The execute on Broken Shard might get him if he catches this.
Yeah, Dota God's still trading off, and he picks up the kill with Stretching Strike coming out. And that low HP, Zac is so strong, and people just really underestimate that.
It was one of those things where if Lee Sin hits his Q, he wins. If he doesn't, he dies, and we saw it there. Both of them, though, could have made that decision to back out, and both of them had the confidence to say, no, I'm going to stick this out and I'm going to go for it, which is kind of the play you expect from these guys, but in this case, it did not work out in Broken Shard's favor.
Yeah, so right now in the bot lane, fairly similar farm, and this is what we were talking about in Champion Select Spellington, that this lane of Zyra and Ashe can really face up against someone like Caitlyn Fresh. A lane typically you would just expect to just straight up win by at least, 1 to 2 waves. Yes, they are winning about 10 CS ahead, but they're keeping themselves in contention, which is something you really can't say too much for lanes outside of Ashe and Zyra, who can match them blow for blow in terms of the long range poke, and even the engagement, and also great counter engagement in the form of Stranglethorns and Grasping Roots for an engagement by limited reversal.
Yeah, Ashe Zyra transitions incredibly well. If you have this kind of picking comp, Ashe Arrow is an unbelievably valuable thing to have on your team. It cannot be overstated how strong it is if you're looking to just pick one guy off at a time. In addition to that, having that Zyra for the counter engage, just in case it all does go wrong and they end up in that 5-on-5, is also really, really huge. And it can function as follow-up if you get a good enough 5-on-5 fight. For instance, if you've managed to focus someone down really, really low, and then go for a 5-on-5.
Yeah, Ashe's utility is exceptional. Caitlyn has very good damage early game and late game just because of how she scales. And Ace in the Hole comes across just to try and deter them away from Dragon, which doesn't seem to be the case thus far. And jump over the wall, doesn't quite get the steal off, but this will be the engagement. Claw comes down, lands straight into the Frozen Tomb, and the Stranglethorns in with the Frozen Tomb. So much damage coming up. Well, now Overpower turning up into the fight. Can he do enough damage? Can he commit? But with Grasping Roots putting him in his place, Brugachard moves in from over the wall, gets picked up by Limited Reversal. Now the chase comes up to Zaxxas. Limited Reversal could be the complete ace, and there it is. 5 for 1.
That was a really clutch level up for Spontex there, actually. He managed to get the reset available on his wings. You actually saw him, doing that little channel animation and leveling up the skill during the fight. And he got it, too. It meant that he got that triple kill at the end there. And that's huge for them. That was a good turnaround. And that's the power of that counter engage. KMT.H2k overcommitted trying to force that fight, and their initiation, as we mentioned, just wasn't strong enough to deal with the fact they then had to go through the Stranglethorns, and that meant they all got low, and that meant Karthus couldn't put enough damage down, and that meant Kha'Zix's time.
Yeah, Kha'Zix's cleanup ability is so good in team fights where either they're running away or everyone's split up and everyone's having their own sort of 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2s, and then he can just make sure he kills his opponent and then he kills everyone else's opponent. And that's just the strength of Kha'Zix right there. Currently 6-1-3, going for a more damage-orientated build, which I don't dislike. He's also going for the more Mortis for a bit more tankiness. Sometimes we do see Kha'Zixes who get really fed, who just build really tanky, and they rely on their base damages, which are still exceptionally strong, and can just tank everything. They can become a complete raid boss, and no one can do anything at all. Meanwhile, on the top lane, Zaxxas gets aggressive. Broken Shard looks for the gank once again, doesn't quite connect the Sonic Wave, but now Tempest Cripple, something you can't miss at all, knocks him deeper into the turret. Zaxxas now going with the only logical route down to the Tri-Brush, but this eventually should be the kill, with actually donating it to Spontex, but Broken Shard picks it up with red buff.
Well, a little bit unfortunate there from the perspective of Croissant Crusaders, but they're not going to be too upset with that result. Broken Shard's red buff there taking away the kill. Kha'Zix coming in for that last second steal, but was not able to get it. However, it is telling that Yorick is 0-5. He has been camped to hell and back in that lane, and that is really, really, really not good for him. He is not going to enjoy that. And indeed, it's kind of a story that's being told all across the board. It kind of feels almost at this point like KMT.H2k actually are going to have problems in the mid lane.
Yeah, Frozen Tomb comes out and Spontex explodes Karthus. Dota got over the wall for the counter gank, picks up kill and return. 1 versus 1 under the turret. Spontex, even as fed as he is, won't be able to trade him out underneath the punishing blows of the turret. Dota got charging up Elastic Slingshot, I guess to push Spontex away more than anything, and that'll be 1 for 1.
Yeah, so as I was saying, it feels to me kind of as if H2k have... in Champion Select, they may have just focused so much on getting their super teamfight composition. Ash Arrow in the bottom lane, Lantern goes down.
Yeah, Broken Shard follows up. Stranglethorns into the box for the counter initiate from Limits Reversal. Doesn't look like it's going to be enough, and he will be the sacrificial lamb, allowing his AD carry to escape.
Yeah, but this is definitely momentum play coming down. Broken Shard is everywhere at the moment getting the kills, and Ash Arrow initiates really, really strong if you're looking to just start a small fight somewhere. For instance, if you are looking to catch out the enemy's AD carry, who is still quite late on into the game in that 2-on-2 situation, just because they're trading so evenly and no one's been able to push any towers down.
Yeah, the pick team is really paying dividends right now for Croissant Crusaders. And there's very little answer, honestly, from H2k, because yes, they have a very good teamfight composition, but Karthus is nowhere near fed enough or strong enough and doesn't deal the damage even if he is in Death Defiled or even if he is in the passive of Zaxxas. He just, one, doesn't have the damage. Their team in general isn't tanky enough to survive the onslaught of CC. And at the same time, Yorick is completely shut down. He's like the only player in their team who by default should be winning his lane.
However, there are a couple of caveats to that kind of thing. H2k actually have very good stalling potential in this game. They have really good wave clear. They've got Caitlyn, they've got Karthus, they've got the Yorick Ghouls, and they've got Zac, who is also very solid at that. They are also impossible to dive effectively. They've got a ton of CC, they've got multiple revival passives, and they've got good mobility. This could be Broken Shard getting caught out here.
Yeah, flash into Death Sentence from Limits Reversal. Such a good playmaker, something we've seen time and time again from this player. Broken Shard jumps out of Safeguard. Meanwhile, another trade comes out with Overpower and 6. But the mobility and the sheer strength of that mobility-based team should be enough to get them out. The long range from Dota God, though, over the wall, moving on to Lissandra, lands another Death Sentence, follows up straight to Frozen Tomb, gives him a couple seconds of invulnerability. Broken Shot over the wall. Now Spontex for the cleanup, picks up one, drops another into his passive. Karthus comes out, picks up the kill onto Broken Shard. That's a 1 for 3.
ballsy re-engage by Broken Shard, but that was a fight that went so heavily in the favor of Croissant Crusaders. They have just won that fight, like straight up. Spontex getting even more fed, and all that time, Prathana was solo pushing bot, solo farming bot. She's gonna take this inner tower, and that is huge. Ashe is not a character you want to deal with when she's really farmed. Base attacks be very high. She gets super strong late game, and overpower is actually okay.
Yeah, Spontex just disrupting the recall there, but yeah, CC are just in such a dominating position. When you get to the stage where you're winning team fights when outnumbered, it becomes really bad. Yes, they have good stalling potential. They won't really be able to go for those dives, but they can definitely still go for picks. We saw that there with Limits Reversal, on point with those death sentences. The follow-up with Elastic Slingshot from Dota God is good picking potential, but again, the sheer mobility from that team of CC is just way too much, so they can't really chase them into their jungle, and they can't even chase them into their own jungle too far either.
So the onus is definitely now on Croissant Crusaders to make stuff happen. 10k gold advantage. They're going to take away this dragon for certain, unless there is some kind of amazing death sentence steal incoming, which I doubt there is. There could be a catch though.
Yeah, Ash Arrow, insect out of the Ash Arrow. Doesn't quite connect with anything on the way off the map, but either way, another kill comes out for Croissant Crusaders, and they just look, again, unstoppable. Drake coming down, 20 seconds with Fresh in the Death Chamber, and Spontex looking to reclaim another kill. Xaxus comes in, 1 versus 2, but he is incredibly tanky with the Mormal Mortis and the Giant's Belt. Now the follow-up from the rest of the team, the Cavalry has arrived. 1 for 0 so far, they should be able to secure the rest of the kills. And it's just a complete whitewash. Yes.
But that should be a Baron there. Prathana is continuing to solo push bot, completely unafraid of anything. And at this point, they are so far ahead that, yeah, surrender votes are actually quite an option. Odoamne popping the ultimate on himself. So that was just a huge advantage taken really early on by Croissant Crusaders, and they snowballed it super hard. Maybe a little bit too much focus on the team fight comp and not on the lane strength there for our how can I not remember then? H2k, that is the name. Hard to kill.
It's because you mentioned X and Nexus, and that's confused us for the entire cast. But I need to find my post-it notes. But either way, guys, we will be jumping into the next game very shortly with a very convincing game coming out from Croissant Crusaders. We'll see if they can replicate that in the second game. But until then, see you soon.